What if I told you that the line between wisdom and foolishness isn't drawn by intelligence, but by choices and behavior? It's not about how much you know or how sharp you are. It's about how you act, respond, and think in everyday life. Today, we're diving deep into 6 behaviors that define foolishness, traits that even the smartest among us might unknowingly fall victim to. These traits can undermine relationships, limit success, and create barriers to personal growth. But recognizing them, that's where wisdom begins. Here's the question: can you see these signs in yourself? Will you have the courage to reflect and grow, or will you deny them, like so many do? If you truly value self-improvement, if you believe in the power of personal growth, then like, share, and subscribe right now. But if you don't, well, perhaps it's not wisdom you're after. Before we begin, let's take a moment to ground ourselves in an ancient philosophy that has guided countless individuals toward clarity and wisdom: Stoicism. At its heart, Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotion or becoming indifferent. It's about mastering our reactions, understanding our nature, and living in harmony with reason. Recognizing foolishness, both in ourselves and others, is a key part of that journey. Seneca reminds us, to be wise is to avoid the appearance of foolishness. Epictetus, on the other hand, taught us to focus only on what we can control, warning that losing sight of this is a hallmark of the unwise. And Marcus Aurelius? He constantly reflected on how self-awareness and deliberate action define a virtuous life. But let's not pretend that any of us are immune to foolishness. We've all had moments where we spoke out of turn, clung to a belief that didn't serve us, or reacted impulsively in ways we later regretted. Foolishness isn't something we outgrow. It's something we must constantly strive to recognize and refine within ourselves. This isn't about pointing fingers or labeling others. It's about looking inward and asking the tough questions. Am I as wise as I believe I am? Do my actions align with the principles I claim to uphold? Each of the 6 signs we're about to explore holds a mirror to an aspect of foolishness. Some may feel uncomfortably familiar, but that discomfort, that's where growth begins. So stay with me, because understanding these signs isn't just about avoiding foolishness. It's about cultivating a life guided by reason, intention, and true wisdom. Sign 1. Refusal to learn. The first hallmark of foolishness is the refusal to learn. A foolish person often believes they already know everything, shutting the door to growth and improvement. Epictetus warned us, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." And think about it. How can you ever grow if you refuse to listen, reflect, and adapt? We've all encountered someone like this. Maybe it's that colleague who bristles at constructive feedback, dismissing it with excuses like, "I already know what I'm doing," or a friend who shrugs off advice, convinced their way is the only way. Their confidence might seem unshakable, but beneath it lies a fear of change, a fear of admitting that they could be wrong. History has no shortage of examples. Take Napoleon Bonaparte, a brilliant strategist whose refusal to heed warnings about invading Russia during winter became his downfall. Arrogance clouded his judgment, and the result was catastrophic. What could have been avoided with a willingness to listen and learn instead became a lesson etched into history. But let's not just point outward. Have you ever dismissed advice, only to regret it later? Maybe it was a friend warning you about a decision, a teacher trying to guide you, or even a simple piece of feedback you chose to ignore. What happened next? Did things fall apart in a way you could have avoided? If you've ever experienced this, share your story in the comments, because someone watching might learn from your experience. But here's the thing, refusing to learn is just the beginning. The next sign of foolishness might feel even more familiar, and it strikes at the heart of how we navigate failure. Sign 2. Blame shifting. The second sign of foolishness is blame shifting. A fool will always find someone or something else to point the finger at, avoiding the discomfort of accountability. But here's the harsh truth. When you place the blame elsewhere, you lose the power to change your circumstances. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, captured this perfectly. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In other words, your life is shaped by your thoughts, your decisions, your actions, not the actions of others. Blaming others not only limits your growth, but traps you in a cycle of helplessness. I'll share a time when I fell into this trap. Years ago, I struggled with meeting deadlines. I blamed everything, the workload, the expectations, even the people around me. But deep down, I knew the issue was my own lack of organization. The moment I stopped making excuses and took responsibility, things began to change. It wasn't easy, but it was transformative. Blame had been my shield, but it was also my cage. Now, think about this for yourself. Can you recall a time when you blamed someone else for a failure or setback? Did it truly solve the problem, or did it just delay the solution? Reflect on this, and if you're willing, share your story in the comments. Your experience might inspire someone else to take responsibility in their own life. Why do you think blame shifting is such a common response? Is it fear, pride, or something else entirely? Let's explore this together in the comments section. But here's the deeper issue. When blame becomes a habit, it often leads to something even more damaging. The next sign of foolishness touches on the one thing most of us struggle to control, our emotions. Sign 3. Lack of emotional regulation. The third sign of foolishness is a lack of emotional regulation. A foolish person is ruled by their emotions, allowing anger, fear, or frustration to dictate their actions. This not only clouds judgment, but often leads to regret. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, warned us, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." He believed that anger isn't a sign of strength, but of weakness. The wise, they remain composed even in the midst of chaos. By mastering their emotions, they master themselves. Picture this. Someone loses their job unexpectedly. Instead of calmly assessing their options, they lash out at their boss, their family, even themselves. Their anger blinds them to opportunities and damages relationships that could have supported them. Or think of someone who reacts to constructive criticism with hostility, missing the chance to learn and grow. These moments don't just hurt others, they hurt us most of all. But here's the good news. Emotional regulation is a skill that can be developed. One practical technique is the power of a pause. When emotions run high, take a deep breath. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, and exhale for 4. This small act creates space between emotion and reaction, allowing reason to guide your response. Mindfulness practices like journaling or meditation can also help you reflect on triggers and build resilience over time. What do you think? Are emotional outbursts ever justified, or are they always a sign of foolishness? Share your perspective in the comments. It's a question worth debating. But emotional volatility is only part of the puzzle. The next sign of foolishness reveals itself in how we approach risk, decisions, and consequences, a trait that often hides in plain sight. Sign 4. Stubbornness. The fourth sign of foolishness is stubbornness. A foolish person clings to their beliefs, even when faced with overwhelming evidence that they're wrong. They mistake inflexibility for strength, not realizing that wisdom lies in adaptability. Epictetus reminds us of an essential truth. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our interpretations of them. Clinging to a rigid belief when new evidence emerges isn't just unwise, it's self-defeating. Wisdom requires us to challenge our interpretations and adapt to the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. History offers countless cautionary tales. Take General George Custer, whose infamous last stand at Little Bighorn stemmed from sheer stubbornness. Despite warnings and evidence of being outnumbered, he charged ahead, leading his troops to a devastating defeat. Now, contrast this with our everyday lives. How often do we refuse to admit a mistake in a relationship? Maybe you've been in an argument where you knew you were wrong but doubled down anyway, only to damage trust and prolong the conflict. What did you gain? Likely nothing but regret. Here's something to consider. Is there a difference between stubbornness and conviction? At what point does holding on to a belief become foolish? Let's debate this in the comments. Your perspective might help someone struggling with this very dilemma. Stubbornness can blind us to reality, but it's only one layer of foolishness. The next sign strikes at the root of how we approach truth itself, and it's one of the hardest to confront. Sign 5. Lack of self-awareness. The fifth sign of foolishness is a lack of self-awareness. A fool remains blind to their own flaws, convinced that the problem always lies elsewhere. Without self-awareness, growth becomes impossible, and mistakes are destined to repeat. Socrates, often seen as a spiritual predecessor to the Stoics, taught us that wisdom begins with self-knowledge. Know thyself. Simple words, but they hold a profound truth. We cannot navigate life wisely if we refuse to examine our own hearts and minds. Marcus Aurelius echoed this sentiment when he urged us to look within, reminding us that the answers to most of life's challenges are found in honest self-reflection. Let me share a moment of my own. There was a time when I believed I was a great listener, but as I looked deeper, I realized I often listened just to respond, not to understand. This blind spot caused frustration in my relationships, though I couldn't see it at the time. Once I acknowledged it and made an effort to truly listen, with empathy, not defensiveness, everything began to shift. Conversations became richer, and connections grew stronger. Think about your own life. Have you ever had a moment when someone pointed out a blind spot you didn't realize you had? How did you respond? Did it sting, or did it spark change? Share your experience in the comments. It might inspire someone else to confront their own blind spots. But here's the thing. A lack of self-awareness, while limiting, isn't the most dangerous sign of foolishness. The sixth sign we'll explore next has the power to make even the most intelligent person act foolishly, and it might surprise you. Sign 6. Disregard for long-term consequences. The sixth and most dangerous sign of foolishness is a disregard for long-term consequences. A fool focuses only on the present, indulging in short-term gratification while ignoring the ripple effects their actions will have on the future. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the transient nature of life. He urged us to live purposefully, writing, "What we do now echoes in eternity." The Stoics understood that true wisdom lies in balancing the present moment with the foresight to consider its long-term impact. Living impulsively without reflection leads to regret, but mindful actions can shape a meaningful life. Think about overspending. It's easy to swipe a credit card for things we don't truly need, chasing fleeting happiness. But what happens when the bills pile up and financial stress takes over? Or consider health. Neglecting exercise and indulging in unhealthy habits might feel rewarding now, but over time, it can lead to chronic illnesses that could have been prevented. These choices seem small in the moment, but their consequences are anything but. Take a moment to reflect. How often do you pause to think about the long-term consequences of your actions? Whether it's a financial decision, a relationship choice, or even how you spend your time, every action plants a seed for the future. Are you planting seeds that will grow into something beautiful, or are you setting yourself up for hardship? Share your thoughts in the comments. It's a question worth exploring. Here's a deeper question to consider. Can living in the moment and planning for the future coexist? The balance between mindfulness and foresight is tricky, but it's also essential. I'd love to hear your perspectives in the comments. Disregarding long-term consequences is a subtle yet profound form of foolishness. But now that we've uncovered all 6 signs, the real question is, what do we do with this knowledge? In the final section, we'll bring everything together and discover how to avoid these traps and live a life of wisdom. We've explored the 6 signs of foolishness together. Let's quickly revisit them. The refusal to learn, blame shifting, lack of emotional regulation, stubbornness, lack of self-awareness, and disregard for long-term consequences. Each of these traits holds us back, but recognizing them is the first step toward breaking free. This journey isn't about striving for perfection. No one is perfect, and wisdom is not a destination. It's a lifelong pursuit of growth, reflection, and becoming a better version of ourselves every day. By identifying these signs in ourselves, we open the door to greater understanding and wisdom. Now, if you truly believe in the power of self-reflection and the pursuit of wisdom, show your support, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. But if you don't, well, maybe foolishness is something you're not quite ready to let go of just yet. Before you leave, I have a challenge for you. Which of these 6 signs hit closest to home for you? Which one made you pause and think? Share your insights in the comments below. Your reflection could inspire someone else to begin their own journey of self-awareness. Let's grow together and make wisdom a collective pursuit. Thank you for watching and for being part of this journey. Remember, wisdom isn't about knowing, it's about doing. Until next time, stay thoughtful, stay strong, and strive to live wisely.